Once a farmer told me, if you sleep through the spring, you'll have nothing to harvest in the fall. And since then, I have never again confused the season of action with the season of rest. Most people today live without feeling the rhythm of life. They work in winter, relax in spring, and then wonder why their summer looks like a storm. In this video, I'll explain how to reconnect with the main calendar of success, your own seasons. And at the end, you'll get a simple formula that will show you which season you're in right now and what it's time to do. Imagine this scene. A farmer sits by the fire in winter, a cup of hot coffee in his hands. Outside, snow, frost, trees without leaves. But he's not worried, because he knows he did everything he needed to do back in the spring. He sowed, he worked through the summer heat, he protected the crops, he harvested in the fall. Now it's winter, and now it's time to rest. Now compare that to how most people live these days. There's no spring, no summer, no autumn, just an endless race against the alarm clock. Work from 9 to 5, meetings, deadlines, bills, the noise of the news, another cup of coffee. And somewhere in all that hustle, we've lost something very important. We've lost the sense of the seasons, not the ones on the calendar, the ones in the soul. We no longer feel when it's time to plant and when it's time to harvest. We confuse winter with spring, and instead of resting, we exhaust ourselves even more. Instead of inspiration, we push ourselves harder. We try to live the same way every day, every month, every year, and we wonder why we're getting more tired and less joyful. But let me ask you sincerely, when was the last time you allowed yourself to do nothing during the winter season of your life? When was the last time you felt that March had come, the time to get up early, run, plant, invest yourself in the future? Or are you, like most people, living in an endless artificial season where every day feels the same? You see, in our industrial culture, we've learned to work year-round. Machines don't care when spring comes. They don't mind the heat. But we've become like machines. But we are not machines. We are human. We are made of clay, of spirit, of the energy of nature, and our lives follow the same laws as agriculture, as the rhythm of the sun. Spring, summer, autumn, winter. It's not just for farmers. It's for you, for me, for everyone. Once my mentor, Mr. Schoaf, told me, Jim, you can't change the seasons, but you can learn to use them. That changed my life, and today, if you'll allow me, I'll share that same lesson with you. Inside every year, there's a cycle. Inside every cycle, a moment. And inside every moment, a chance. But if you sleep through it, like a farmer who sleeps through spring, no one will bring you your harvest. I've met people who've worked for years without realizing they're already in autumn, the time to reap the fruits. They keep planting when they should be harvesting, and others spend their winter procrastinating, even though that was their time to renew, to rest, to heal themselves for the new spring. Why do we do this? Because we no longer live in nature. We live in schedules, alarms, phone notifications. We're told, work the same every day. Productivity, focus, money. But you know what? Even the best worker burns out if it's always spring. Now imagine you've regained that natural sense of cycles, that you know when it's time to run and when it's time to be still, when to plant and when to protect your harvest, when to work until midnight, and when instead to read, reflect, and care for yourself. This isn't about laziness, and it's not about rest. It's about wisdom. Wisdom is knowing when to press the pedal and when to stop and look at the stars. Today I want to remind you that your life is not just a to-do list. It's a whole garden. And if you don't know what season your soul is in right now, maybe you're not where you're meant to be. Maybe you're not planting, not growing, not harvesting, but that can change because each of us has our own calendar. And today, together, we'll learn how to read it. When I first heard my mentor say, you can't change the seasons, but you can change yourself, I was a 25-year-old guy with empty pockets and a head full of excuses. I worked hard, but in the wrong direction. I ran every day, yet the distance never got shorter. Then it hit me, a simple but uncompromising realization. I had been living without a calendar, not the kind that hangs on the wall, but an inner one, a calendar of rhythms. I was planting when I should have been fixing the plow, protecting a harvest I hadn't yet sown, resting in March and trying to reap in February. Funny? Yes. Painful? Very. That's why I want you to hear me clearly. The moment you regain your sense of seasons, your life will find a deeper order, and the results that once seemed miraculous will simply become natural consequences. Think about your current spring. Spring is a time for planting, not parades. It's the season when the alarm rings earlier and doubts fall asleep later. Spring doesn't ask if you're ready, it just wakes up, and the window of opportunity opens. Briefly, in business, it's like a new skill you must master while the market is still hot. In relationships, it's those first honest conversations instead of building castles out of hints. In health, it's those early morning runs when the air is still cool, because that's when endurance is built. In my story, spring came as a meeting with someone who told me, if you want more, become more. And I sat down with books, with my notebook, with my own mind. Spring isn't about having, it's about becoming. And yes, in this season, you often work in the dark while others still sleep. But planting always happens before dawn. But that's not all. Spring without summer is a novel without a second chapter. Summer is the season of care and protection. Weeds grow as fast as wheat. Critics appear as quickly as opportunities. What you've planted must be watered, trimmed, and protected from pests. For me, summer meant learning to say no to the small things that steal energy. It's discipline without applause. When the audience is silent and you repeat the new skill over and over again. It's in summer that you stop searching for motivation and start building habits. You choose not the bright idea, but the daily practice. Because without summer, even the best spring turns into a story about once upon a time I started. Autumn, the moment of truth. I love autumn for its honesty. It doesn't ask what you plan to do, it shows what you did. Did you plant, or just talk about planting? Did you care, or postpone it for later? Autumn isn't only about harvest, it's also about accounting for lessons. In the years when I planted right, autumn rewarded me not just with money, but with confidence. Tomorrow I can do more. In the years I chose shortcuts, autumn returned short results. Remember, autumn is always fair, and that's a good thing, because fairness is the best teacher. And then comes winter. This is where we most often make mistakes. We fear stillness, we fear silence, we fear being left behind. But winter wasn't made to humiliate us, but instead it was made to prepare us. It brings us back to basics, fixing tools, renewing our mindset, healing the tired muscles of will. If you ignore winter, you enter spring with a dull blade. Winter is the time for the notebook, for an honest talk with the mirror, for reading those pages you never had time for. It was in winter that I first truly realized that you must work not only in your company, but on yourself. Character, language, manners, the ability to listen, the art of asking questions. Winter is light, hidden in snow. Where are you right now? Not in the weather forecast, in your personal calendar. Ask yourself, am I in spring but acting like it's winter? Or maybe I'm in autumn but still sowing aimlessly because I'm afraid to harvest? Or perhaps it's my summer. The season of protection, where the goal is not something new, but preservation. Know this, the wrong behavior in the right season makes life feel unfair. But the truth is, you just got the rhythm wrong. Here's a mindset shift that once turned my life around. You don't need to run faster than everyone else. You need to run at the right time in the right direction. Each season has its own kind of energy. Spring needs courage and determination. Summer, consistency and patience. Autumn, honesty and gratitude. Winter, reflection and renewal. If you try to live in one kind of energy all year long, you'll either burn out or drift. Constant speed is a myth for machines, not for people. Now take a short pause. Picture yourself as a farmer. Before you lies the field of your life. One plot is your career, another your health, farther on, your relationships, finances, creativity, spirituality. And here's the truth. In different areas, you may be in different seasons at the same time. Spring in your career, autumn in your health, summer in your relationships, winter in your finances. That's why what you need is discernment, not a one-size-fits-all, push harder mantra. The strongest people I've known weren't always at their peak. They knew how to listen to their season. But that's not all. A bit later, I'll share a simple, practical formula that will help you identify your current season through 3 signs and tell you what to do today. And between us, that's the section that will make you want to rewatch this video. But for now, keep this image. Spring rewards courage, summer rewards discipline, autumn rewards honesty, winter rewards attention. Multiply these 4 qualities, and you'll have a growth cycle unshaken by crisis, fashion, or opinion. When I first dared to live by the seasons, the changes weren't instant, but they were inevitable. Waking up early stopped being a struggle. It became part of spring. Saying no to distractions stopped being a sacrifice. It became part of summer. Counting blessings stopped being sentimentality. It became part of autumn. Sitting by the inner fireplace in winter stopped being laziness. It became an investment in resilience. And suddenly it became clear, success isn't something that happens by chance. It's the harvest of a specific calendar. So if you're tired of eternal March or endless Wednesday, allow yourself to return to rhythm today. Because when you synchronize with the seasons, you stop fighting life and start working with it. And that, my friends, is a completely different kind of power. Stay with me. At the end, I'll show you a tool that will divide your year into 4 clear steps in just a few minutes. But now, let's go deeper into the first one, where everything begins, your new spring. Spring doesn't begin with a date on the calendar. It begins with a decision. One morning you wake up and tell yourself, enough negotiating for your dream. I remember my morning like that. I had little money, even less confidence, but I suddenly felt a simple truth. While I wait for perfect conditions, spring quietly slips away. And the most painful thing isn't that I didn't plant, it's that I hadn't even held the seeds in my hands. That's why the first step of spring isn't an outward action, but an inner one. To cut off doubt like a dry branch. To tell yourself, from now on, I am the one who plants every day, regardless of the news, the weather, or what the neighbors think. Want a micro secret? Spring loves rituals. The ritual of early rising, the ritual of one written page in your notebook, the ritual of making that first call before your fears wake up. Rituals are the shovel and hoe of your spring. I often hear, Jim, how do I know if I'm truly in spring and not in an illusion? Very simple. In spring, you're more afraid of doing nothing than of doing something imperfectly. In spring, your energy is uneven but alive. 3 steps today, 1 tomorrow, but something gets planted every day. In spring, you think in seeds, not harvests. You don't ask, where are the fruits? You ask, what did I put into the soil today? And yes, spring tests our character. It makes us take steps that seem tiny. 10 minutes of practice, 1 new connection, 1 honest talk with yourself instead of half an hour of excuses. But don't underestimate the small things. The small things are the seeds, and seeds always look humble. When I first sat down seriously to plant, I didn't have a perfect plan. I had a notebook and my mentor's phrase, work harder on yourself than on your job. What did that mean in practice? Every day I chose at least 1 task that made me more valuable. To read, to write something down, to rehearse, to speak it aloud. No one applauded. And you know what? That was the sign I was in the right season. Spring doesn't give applause, it gives opportunity. And opportunity rarely looks like opportunity. It looks like dawn in the cold, like the first lines on a blank page, like a conversation that makes your voice tremble. But that's exactly where you draw closer. But don't confuse spring with running away from yourself. Sometimes people start planting everything at once, and 100 ideas, 50 projects, 10 books. It's so easy to plant chaos and call it productivity. In my own spring, I had a moment of realization. It's not the amount of seed that changes your life, but whether the seed matches the soil. If the soil is your unique strength and the seed your daily actions, then the main question is, are you planting your own seeds? If not, is it any wonder the sprouts are weak? Spring demands choice. Say yes to 3 things and no to 100. And remember, refusal is also planting. It frees space for what has a chance to grow. But that's not all. Once the seeds are in the ground, the most underrated part begins. Silence. Silence scares many people. They want to dig around, check if it's growing, tug the sprout by its leaf, rush the soil. I made that mistake too. The result? Broken sprouts. Spring teaches trust in the process. Your job is to plant and water, not to pull the seed up every hour. From this trust, inner strength is born. The strength that will become your summer, the power of discipline without reward. Here's a whisper from spring worth remembering. Do your part. The earth does its part. Once you stop confusing those roles, anxiety fades, and the result arrives exactly when it's supposed to. Now let's talk about resistance. Spring always meets you with gatekeepers. Fear of judgment, fear of looking like a beginner, fear of losing the little you have. They stand right at the entrance to your field. I know them by name. My favorite one is called I'll Prepare Just a Little More. He's polite, persuasive, and always on your side. But that's the most dangerous enemy, because spring is short, and if you keep postponing, it quietly closes. What helped me? The first hour rule. The first 60 minutes of the day, that's the clock of spring. In that time, I do what moves my seeds forward. Learn, write, call, create. No bargaining, no discounts. Everything else comes later. Try it. You'll feel how your day's tone shifts from reactive to creative. And one more detail that turned out not to be a detail at all. Who do you talk to in spring? It's easy to give away your early fragile energy to people who don't see your field. They're not bad, they're just not here. Spring loves quiet and the right witnesses. Those who say, I see you planting, keep going. And yes, sometimes it will be only you and your notebook. Believe me, that's enough if you're counting seeds, not excuses. Let me ask you a few questions, not to shame you, but to wake up your awareness. What 3 seeds have you planted in the past 7 days? In which part of your field are you planting what isn't yours? Where are you confusing planting with collecting likes? And most importantly, what are you ready to plant tomorrow in the first hour of your day? Don't answer me out loud. Answer yourself in writing. Writing is how you hear your own truth. Spring loves written honesty. And finally, the transition. If you're already planting, you'll soon need summer. Summer is the time when the world doesn't applaud you, and you no longer need applause. It's the season of weeds, small distractions, and tests of consistency. In my life, summer began when the first small sprouts tempted me to relax. See, it's growing. You can slow down a little. Every time I gave in, my autumn harvest was almost. And almost is the coldest word for someone who planted sincerely. So in the next part, I'll show you how I built summer shields, simple but reliable, to protect the sprouts from weeds, doubts, and the convenient opportunities that devour the real ones. There will be a few unexpected stories and one principle that turns discipline from punishment into freedom. Stay close. If spring awakens your dreams, summer will teach you to guard them from everything cheap and loud. And in the end, we'll bring it all together into a practical system with clear seasonal markers and specific actions for each. Your year will become as clear as a field at dawn. And believe me, there's nothing sweeter than an autumn you've earned. Summer, the season when the world is silent and you keep going. In summer, no one understands why you turn down a great opportunity in favor of one quiet hour of practice. In summer, you do the same thing yesterday, today, and tomorrow, and it's precisely that same thing that grows the harvest. I remember my first true summer season. A few small sprouts were already visible, and the temptation to slow down was almost physical. Every call on the list, every notebook page, every repeated speech seemed insignificant. But summer is about the insignificant, repeated until it becomes character. What helped me was a simple rule. If something protects my sprouts, it's a priority. If it entertains and distracts, it's unnecessary for the summer. From that, my summer shields were born. Boundaries in the calendar, short nose without explanations, an environment free of excess noise. You'll notice how random leaks of energy disappear. Meaningless conversations, endless, just one more video, advice from people who don't work your field. By the end of summer, your schedule might look rigid to others, but to you, it's no longer a cage. It's support. The discipline you once thought was punishment becomes freedom because it frees you from hesitation. But that's not all. Summer always tests us with easy shortcuts. Why weed every day when you can do it next week? Why call today when you can tomorrow? Postponed summer turns into an empty autumn. So hold to this simple principle. Small agreements with yourself matter more than big declarations to others. If you promised yourself 15 minutes, do 15, even if you could do more. Self-respect grows from what's done, not from what's perfect. That's what gives you the strength to carry summer to its end. Autumn isn't only about fruits, it's a mirror. It shows what was truly planted and how it was cared for. Once, while summing up a season, I caught myself with 2 lists, a list of results and a list of reasons. I quickly realized, as long as I'm writing the second, the first doesn't grow. Autumn demands maturity, to count facts, not excuses. How many proposals did you send? How many speeches did you give? How many miles did you run? Here, a different math applies. Reality outweighs intention, and at the same time, autumn is about gratitude. Look at your fruits and thank everyone who stood beside you, the teacher who gave you a hint, the friend who stopped you from easy decisions, yourself, for those mornings when you didn't feel like it. Gratitude cements the harvest into character. Without it, we slide forward without growing stronger inside. There's another secret to autumn. Honest analysis turns losses into seeds. Not every season will be record-breaking, and that's fine. My best springs were born from those autumns when I had the courage to call things by their names. This idea isn't sprouting. I let it go. Here I was, inconsistent. I correct it. There I underestimated the weeds. Next summer, I'll build a shield. Every autumn, I repeated to myself, don't wish it were easier. Wish to become better. Autumn is a season of decisions for the future, not just celebrations of the past. And then comes winter. Many mistake winter for stagnation. Winter isn't standing in mud, it's returning to the source. It's the time when you take the blade off the work to sharpen it. For me, winter begins with silence and a notebook. I rewrite the year, what gave the most return, what drained time, where I truly worked on myself, and where I only pretended to move. I read slow books, the kind with more questions than answers. I renew my language, the words I use with myself and with others. I take one skill apart, piece by piece, like a craftsman dismantling a tool, cleaning, adjusting, and reassembling it. And I also let go. Winter teaches us to close chapters, to end projects we maintain out of inertia, to release commitments that don't align with new seeds, to say thank you and goodbye. Only then does spring arrive easily, unburdened by the old. Winter also returns us to simple truths. You can't change the seasons, but you can change yourself. You can't control the wind, but you can set the sail. You can't speed up the soil, but you can become a more attentive gardener. I love winter mornings for their honesty. No noise, no applause, just you and your next level. This is where a new choice is born. Quiet, not showy. This year, I will become a person who, and then not wishes, but traits of character, punctual, attentive, generous in deeds, not promises. It's in winter that we cultivate the kind of strength that doesn't need random proof. Let me ask you, what kind of winter do you allow yourself? One where you escape into noise and distractions, or one where you return to yourself? Do you have a place, a time, and pages where the past season turns into lessons? If not, don't be surprised when your next spring looks like the last one. Without winter digestion, experience doesn't turn into wisdom, and mistakes don't become patterns. And now, a shift that ties all seasons together. Each season tests us for a specific quality, but together they form a cycle. The courage of spring without the consistency of summer makes us dreamers. The consistency of summer without the honesty of autumn makes us overconfident. The honesty of autumn without the renewal of winter makes us rigid and tired. The renewal of winter without the decision of spring, good intentions without motion. So the question isn't which season you love, but whether you allow each to do its work within you. Ahead lies the practical part. I'll give you a simple matrix with 3 markers for each season and 3 actions you can take today to re-enter the rhythm. There will be short formulas like, if you feel this, do that, and 5 self-assessment questions from 1 to 10 to pinpoint your season clearly, without self-deception. But before we get there, remember one phrase that once lifted me up. Success isn't something you chase, it's something you attract by the person you become. Become a person of your season, and you'll see how your field transforms. And when your autumn comes, you'll smile remembering the early mornings, the quiet refusals, and the winter pages. Because each of those steps was already part of your harvest, just in different measures of time. Let's take a short pause. You've already heard about spring, summer, autumn, and winter. You may have recognized yourself in some of these images, but here's the key question. Where are you now? Because real change doesn't begin with a plan. It begins with an honest starting point. Now I'll ask you 5 simple questions. They don't require long reflection, only honesty. Rate each from 1 to 10. 1 means, no, that's not me at all. 10 means, yes, that's me completely. Don't stop, don't overthink, just listen, feel, and rate as you go. After this video, you can return to these questions and write down your answers in more detail. Ready? Let's begin. First question, do you plant at least one seed for your future harvest every day? It doesn't have to be something big. Maybe it's a page from a book, a workout, a phone call, an honest conversation. But do you plant? Because if the field is empty, don't be surprised when autumn brings only dust. Think, does each of your days leave behind something planted? Rate yourself from 1 to 10. Second question, how do you protect what you've already planted? Summer always comes with weeds, doubts, temptations, distractions, later. Do you have the discipline not to let them choke your sprouts? Can you say no, even when no one's watching? Remember, weeds don't need to be invited. They grow on their own. Rate yourself from 1 to 10. How well are you protecting your field right now? Third question, when was the last time you thanked autumn? Not for success, but for a lesson. Not for money, but for experience. Autumn is honest, but not gentle. It shows things as they are. Can you accept your results without excuses, with gratitude, like a farmer who knows he did what he could, and now it's time to learn from what he sees? Because without gratitude, even the best harvest becomes a burden. Your rating from 1 to 10. Fourth question, do you allow yourself a real winter? Do you have moments when you don't run into noise, don't chase another goal, but simply sit by your own inner fireplace, reviewing your year, talking with yourself? Or are you afraid of silence because silence demands honesty? Winter isn't a pause, it's renewal. And if you skip it, spring will come, but you'll still be last year's version of yourself. Give yourself a score from 1 to 10. Fifth question, how harmoniously are you living through your seasons? Have you gotten stuck in one? Constantly planting but never harvesting? Or constantly harvesting but planting nothing new? Maybe you're trying to live in eternal summer, not realizing the soil is running dry. Life isn't a nonstop marathon, it's a breath. Inhale, action, exhale, reflection. The seasons are your lungs. Rate yourself from 1 to 10. How in rhythm are you with your own life? Now take a deep breath. Maybe some of your numbers surprised you. Maybe you gave yourself a few low scores. And that's good, because a low score doesn't mean failure. It means you see the truth. And truth is the first ray of spring. I want you to remember this. Life doesn't give us instructions, but it gives us signals. And if you learn to feel them, you'll never mistake your season again. So after this video, go back to your answers, write them down. Look at which of the 4 seasons needs your attention right now, and choose just one action, small but concrete. Maybe it's time to wake up 30 minutes earlier. Maybe it's time to say thank you to someone, or maybe it's simply time to sit quietly in stillness. And before we move to the conclusion, I want to say this. If this video touched you, if it reminded you that you too are the farmer of your own life, like it, subscribe, share it with a friend who's looking for their season, because sometimes one story, heard at the right time, is someone's spring. And now when I think about all my years and all the springs, summers, autumns, and winters, I realize one simple thing. Life has always given me seasons, but I wasn't always ready to receive them. Sometimes I was angry at the cold when I was meant to learn patience. Sometimes I longed for a harvest without planting a single seed. Sometimes I wanted summer without living through winter. But over the years I understood. True maturity comes when you stop fighting time and start living in harmony with it. My friends, don't fight the seasons. Spring doesn't last forever, but it always returns. Summer doesn't promise ease, but it rewards consistency. Autumn doesn't lie, it shows the truth. And winter doesn't take, it prepares. When you accept this cycle not as an enemy but as an ally, life becomes wiser, calmer, and far more fruitful. I often remind myself and those I teach, don't pray for things to be easier, pray to become stronger, because spring without strength is only hope. Summer without strength is only routine. Autumn without strength is only disappointment. And winter without strength is only escape. Strength comes from understanding rhythm, and when you learn to feel that rhythm, you'll never again be a random guest in your own life. So today I invite you to a small decision. Start listening to your inner calendar. Not the world's, not the company's, not society's, yours. Ask yourself every day, what season am I in right now? And what is this season asking of me? Then, instead of fighting time, you'll begin to move in alliance with it. Because success isn't about catching up to someone. It's about plowing on time, planning on time, protecting on time, and giving thanks on time. Life, like a field, is always generous to those who work with love for the season they're in. And when your autumn comes, I wish for you to stand in your field, look at your harvest, and quietly say to yourself, yes, I did everything I was meant to do, and it's been a good year.